Hello, students. I am Dr. Stuti Singh from ABS Engineering College, Applied Sciences and Humanities Department. So, we will be continuing wave optics, and now we are going to talk about diffraction in part 2 of the wave optics. In part 1, we discussed about the interference in thin film, wedge shaped film, Newton's rings. Okay, so in part 2, let us see what topics we are going to cover. We are going to cover introduction to diffraction, diffraction at a single slit, absence spectra, diffraction grating, spectra with grating, dispersive power, resolving power, Rayleigh criteria of resolution, resolving power of grating. Okay, so before we start with all the topics, we know that there are some prerequisites that are required. First and foremost, we should know what is diffraction. And yes, the phenomena of bending of light round the corners of an obstacle and they're spreading into the geometrical shadow is called diffraction. We can also say when the wave encounter the obstacles, they bend around the edges of the obstacles if the dimension of the obstacles are compared to the wavelength of the wave. This bending of waves is called diffraction. Then we should also know, as we all know the history, we all remember that in 1665, this phenomena of diffraction was studied by Grimaldi. And then it was studied by the Newton. In terms of wave theory, it was attempted by the Young, and in 1815, A.J. Fresnel was able to explain successfully the phenomena of diffraction by considering that the diffraction phenomena, it is caused by the interference of innumerable secondary wavelets produced by the unobstructed portions of the, say, wavefront. So with this explanation, he not only explain the phenomena of diffraction, but also the rectilinear propagation of light. So we should also know what is the difference between Fresnel and Fraunhofer diffraction. Now let us see what is the difference between the two. In Fresnel class of diffraction, the source of light or the screen both are at the finite distance from the diffracting element, but so no lenses are needed for rendering the rays parallel or convergent. Therefore, incident wavefronts is spherical or cylindrical instead of plane. But in Fraunhofer class of diffraction, the source and the screen are effectively at a finite distance from the diffracting element. It is observed by employing the lenses, two convergent lenses, one to render the incoming light and other to focus the parallel diffracted rays on the screen. So these, in Fresnel diffraction, lateral distance are important, and Fraunhofer angular inclinations are important. So these both diffractions, we should know the difference between the two. Here we are going to use Fraunhofer diffraction to study the diffraction pattern. Okay, we should also, the calculation of resultant of n simple harmonic motion of equal amplitude and period phase increasing in arithmetic progression, because in our derivation we are going to use this directly for calculating the resultant amplitude due to single slit. Okay, so now moving further, now let us talk about diffraction at a single slit. This is also known as Fraunhofer diffraction at a single slit. So let us draw the diagram first. Okay, before we draw the diagram, if you all have performed the single slit experiment in the lab, what you all have performed is, let me connect that lab experiment with the theory over here. We have seen that the light is coming out from a laser. Suppose this is a laser source. It is mounted on a optical bench. It is incident on the single slit. Suppose this is a single slit. And then after we get the diffracted rays from this single slit, our diffraction pattern. The pattern is observed on a screen. Okay, it is observed on a screen. So let us draw the screen. And what sort of pattern we get is, we get a intensity, and that intensity is decreasing. Okay, so this you have observed in the lab, and all the things are mounted on an optical bench. Suppose this is an optical bench. Okay, and this is screen. So now let me connect this screen. Let us draw this screen again. So there is intensity at the center. Then the intensity is decreasing. And similarly on both the sides, the intensity is decreasing. So if you see this, what is it? It is nothing but the intensity, that I versus theta. See, this is central. So I versus theta. This is central maxima. Let me just write the theta properly. This is central intensity. So I can draw this intensity. This is very high. Then we are getting a minima in between two maximas. So it is shown by the dip. Then this maxima is shown. Then this in minima is shown by the dip. Again, the maxima is shown. And the intensity keep on decreasing. So this is the nothing but the graph that you have studied from the diffraction. So in this topic, the practical, if you have performed in the lab, plus this graph that you have studied, we will be finding out the intensity theoretically of the central maxima and the minima and other maximas and the minimas with the help of, the diagram. So further now you should know that what we are talking about. We are talking about this pattern only. We are going to study this, at central maxima. We are going to study all these maxima. Suppose we at an angle theta, we get M maxima. And then if we change the value of theta, then other M maxima. So we are going to study this only. So nothing but we are going to draw the screen in spite of horizontal manner in a vertical manner. Like this, we're going to draw the screen and we are going to study the maximas. So let us continue. Okay. So before we start the derivation, let us draw the diagram. For studying interference, diffraction at a single slit, let us draw the diagram. The light from the source S is incident on a lens L1. Then the light is incident from L1 on a slit AB of width A. So light that is not bending will move straight. And again from another lens L2, it will be it will be projected on the screen XY. So this will make the center or the central maxima, as it is not bending. Now, suppose that light bends from the corner. This is slit A and B. So it bends from the slit at an angle theta. Okay, so this is bending at an angle theta. And over here also it is bending at an angle theta. So again from the lens, what we will get is, we are going to get another maxima. we are going to get another maxima from here at any position M. Now we can change the value of theta and the position of the maximas will keep changing. So if we get the path difference between the two rays, we can easily calculate the rest of the positions of maximas and the minimas. Okay. So suppose the single ray is showing that the light is not bending and the double arrow is showing the ray that is bending at an angle theta. So for calculating the intensity, okay, now let us calculate what is the purpose. This is again, I said, this is nothing but the central maxima and the other maximas as discussed over here. This is C and M. And now this is C, or we can say this is not P, but this is M, if I write it. Okay, so we are going to calculate the intensities over here. So for calculating the intensity, what we have to do is we are going to draw a perpendicular from A on the ray that is bending at an angle theta. So let us draw the perpendicular. Okay, so this perpendicular is drawn, right? So now from the geometry, we know for calculating intensity at M. Okay, we have drawn a perpendicular. Okay, so what will be the path difference from the geometry? Path difference between the rays coming from extreme points A and B is given by delta is equals to Bn is equals to AB sine theta. So from the geometry, it is clear that the path difference is equals to AB sine theta. And what is AB? AB is the width of the slit. So suppose width of the slit is A. So what is the path difference now? Path difference is equals to A sine theta. This is equation number 1. Okay, for calculating Fraunhofer diffraction at a single slit, we got the path difference between the rays, that is A sine theta. So when we are getting the path difference, we can also get the phase difference correspondingly. So correspondingly, we can write the phase difference that is equals to 2 pi by lambda into A sine theta, because what is the relation of path difference and phase difference? It is 2 pi by lambda into path difference. The phase difference is equals to. Okay, so over here we are getting the phase difference. Now let the AB slit be, imagined to be divided into large number of n equal parts. Okay, for further calculation, what we are thinking, let slit may be imagined to be divided so what we were discussing was that we are talking about diffraction at a single slit. So we calculated the path difference, and correspondingly we also calculated the phase difference. Now we are continuing with this, that let us imagine that slit may be divided into n equal parts. Okay, n equal parts, and each part being the source of secondary wavelets. So now over here, the phase difference, what the phase difference will become? The phase difference accordingly will be will be if we imagine, if we are calculating the phase difference from any two successive parts of the slit AB, then the phase difference accordingly will be 1 by n times 2 pi by lambda a sine theta is equals to delta. Okay, so we are considering this as the phase difference. Now we are going to calculate the resultant amplitude of the waves. So as I said, we are going to use n simple harmonic motion theory. So according to just 1 minute, students, let us write down this as equation number 3. Okay. So now we are going to calculate the resultant amplitude of the waves. So according to theory of n simple harmonic motion of equal amplitude and common phase difference. So what will it become? It is equals to R is equals to A sine alpha over alpha. Okay, where A is equals to NA, if we would have calculated, by the whole theory of n simple harmonic motion, we would have got the value of R as A sine alpha over alpha, and A is N into A, and alpha is equals to pi A sine theta upon lambda. So now this value of R, this value of resultant amplitude, okay, this value of R is very, very important in calculating the expression for the intensity, intensity distribution due to Fraunhofer diffraction at a single slit. So this is very important to be remembered, equation number 4, because the resultant intensity that we are trying to calculate. So if amplitude is R, then what is intensity? The square of the amplitude. Okay, so the resultant amplitude at M is given by equation 4. So the resultant intensity will be given by, therefore, resultant intensity will be given by what? It will be given by I. Okay, and that I is equals to R square, or that is equals to A square sine square alpha over alpha square. This is again very important equation, equation number 5. This equation number 5 is the required, it is the required expression for the intensity distribution. Intensity distribution. Distribution due to single slit diffraction. Single slit diffraction. Okay. Now, what we have to do is, now we are having the intensity equation from, from R, that is the resultant amplitude. Now, this intensity equation should help in finding out all the positions of maximas and minima. Now, let us see how it is helping in finding out all the positions of maximas and minimas. So, what is the next discussion that we are going to do is, the next discussion will be of position of maxima and position of minima, right? So, now let us move further with the derivation. I'll change the slide. Let us take the pen. Okay. So now first and foremost, let us talk about the position of principal. Notice that principal maximum. Okay. So let us talk about the position of principal maxima. So we know that position of principal maxima also will be requiring an intensity, because now we are talking about principal maxima, right? So let us see what can be done with the intensity equation, how theoretically we can calculate position of principal maxima. So let us just principal maxima. See, suppose now what is the value of R? R is equals to A by alpha into sine alpha. So if we open the series of sine alpha, then what will happen? It will become A upon alpha, that is alpha minus alpha to the power 3 upon 3 factorial plus alpha to the power upon 5 factorial minus alpha to the power 7 upon 7 factorial and so on. So if we introduced alpha inside, then what we are going to get is A 1 minus alpha square upon 3 factorial plus alpha 4 upon 5 factorial minus alpha 6 upon 7 factorial and so on. Okay, now you know that when the value of R will be maximum. For R to be maximum, what is required? Yes, the R is maximum if we get the value of R as A. Okay, and that will happen when all these negative terms will be vanishing. So when it is possible, it is only possible when the alpha is equals to 0. Alpha 0 means pi by lambda, R to be maximum. It is possible when alpha is 0. And for this pi by lambda, sine theta into A is equals to 0 or theta is equals to 0. Very important point. Okay, so over here at theta equals to 0, what we are getting is, we are getting the intensity of principal maxima due to single slit equals to A square. Okay, and originally also, if we see, Where is central maxima forming when we talk about diffraction? You all remember we drawn the graph. Where is the central maxima forming? It is here. And this is which value? Theta equals to 0 when the light is not bending. Okay, then we are getting the central maxima. And over here also, theoretically, we are able to prove that intensity of, central maxima is forming at theta is equals to 0 or alpha is equals to 0. So the value of intensity of principal maxima is equals to a square. And this is very important. Okay. Okay, so we discussed about the position of principal maxima. Now let us talk about position of minima. Okay. So now let us talk about position of minima. So intensity is minimum over here. Intensity minimum ka means kya hai? The dip that we are talking about in the I versus theta graph. If we see, then what is the minima? The minima is the dark fringe or the dark portion between the two maximas. So intensity minimum. Intensity will be when minimum. It will be minimum when sine alpha will be equals to 0. Okay. Then only we'll get what is intensity? A square sine square alpha over alpha square. So if sine alpha is 0, then the intensity is 0. But can alpha be equals to 0? Very right. Alpha cannot be equals to 0. Why? Because at alpha equals to 0, right now we discussed that intensity of principal maxima is forming. Then how alpha 0 can give the minima? At both the place we cannot get this dark and bright, both the fringe, na? Or both pattern, hai na? So therefore, sine alpha will be 0, alpha will not be 0. So what is the value of alpha then? Alpha is equals to plus minus n pi, where n stands for 1, 2, 3, and so on. Okay. So now if I write the value of alpha over here, what is the value of alpha? Pi by a sine theta is equals to plus minus n pi. So what is the direction of minima? The direction of minima is a sine just wait, students. Pi a sine theta by lambda was the value of alpha, right? So now what is the direction? Pi will be getting cancelled and lambda can come here. That a sine theta is equals to n lambda plus minus m lambda. This is the in direction of minima. So now what we are talking about over here? Now see, I'll just draw what we are talking about over here. This is the pattern that you have seen in the lab with due to single slit. So now we have got the positions of minima. Where is minima? The minima is here. Between the two maximas is minima. So where is the position of minima? The position of minima is in plus minus n pi. Okay. Pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, and plus minus. Okay. So what, now let us continue. Let us continue with the further discussion. Let me just choose the ink. Okay. Now we are going to talk about secondary maxima. So we have calculated central maxima, we have calculated minimas. Now we are going to talk about secondary maximas. Okay, the other maximas that are present, because the position C is there. Now we are going to talk about position M. See, for secondary maxima, You can just write down one thing that I missed is this is direction of minima. Now let us move further. So now secondary maxima. Let us talk about secondary maxima. So for in addition to the principal maximas, there are less intense secondary maximas, between equally spaced minimas. So in order to locate the position of secondary maxima, what we do is we apply a mathematical procedure. We differentiate intensity with respect to alpha and equate it to 0. What is it? D I by d alpha is equals to 0. Okay, so what is d by d alpha is a square sine square alpha over alpha square. Okay, so this is equals to 0. So when we solve this, what we get is we get a square 2 sine alpha over alpha into alpha cos alpha minus sine alpha over alpha square is equals to 0. Now either from here we can easily come to know either sine alpha over alpha is equals to 0 or the second term alpha cos alpha minus sine alpha upon alpha square is equals to 0. Okay, so this is very clear from here. So what we will do is, we know that sine alpha over alpha, if we will take this is equals to 0, then what will happen? Uh, what will happen? We will get the either the position of minima or the position of maxima. So this we will not be taking to 0, because if sine alpha is 0, we are going to get the position of minima. So let us consider the second term. What is second term? Second term is alpha cos alpha minus sine alpha is equals to 0. So from here we can get that alpha is equals to sine alpha upon cos alpha, that is equals to tan alpha. Okay, so from here we get alpha is equals to tan alpha. That is, let us consider that equals to y. So if we consider this is equals to y, then y is equals to alpha and y is equals to tan alpha. So graphically we can draw both, as y is equals to alpha is a straight line, and we can also draw the graph of tan alpha. So wherever the intersection points will be there we can find the value of the alpha. So let us draw that. Let us draw that. Then if we try to draw then carefully, we can draw these two. Or we can draw is, okay, so suppose now this is alpha, right? And what is happening is, if this is alpha, then we can easily get the value of the other things also. From here, we can get the value of tan alpha, and we could draw it graphically. So let us draw the first tan alpha. Then let us draw the tan alpha. Then let us draw the third. And then let us draw the fourth one. Okay, and now let us also draw y is equals to alpha. So now see, here is the intersection point, here is the intersection point, here is the intersection point. And what are these values? This value is pi. This value is 2 pi. This value is 3 pi. Okay. And what are these? These are y is equals to tan alpha. And this is y is equals to alpha. Then what are these values? This is pi by 2. This is 3 pi by 2. This is 5 pi by 2. This is 7 pi by 2. So now if you see that the intersection points are lying near 7 pi by 2, 5 pi by 2 and 3 pi by 2. So from here we can easily come to net that what will be the value of alpha. What will be the value of alpha? The value of alpha will be plus minus 2n plus 1 upon 2 pi, where n is again 1, 2, 3 and so on. So we can get the value of alpha as this. It means what is the value of secondary maximas, or at which position of alpha the secondary maximas are forming. At the position alpha is equals to plus minus 3 pi by 2, plus minus 5 pi by 2 and so on, 7 pi by 2 and so on. Okay, so from here we can also get the direction of secondary maxima. What will be the direction of secondary maxima? The direction of secondary maxima will be, if we write the value of alpha from here again, then what is the value of alpha? Pi a by lambda into sine theta, that is equals to plus minus 2n plus 1 pi by 2. So the direction will be a sine theta is equals to plus minus 2n plus 1 lambda by 2. So this is the direction of secondary maximum. Secondary maximum. Okay. So from here we can also calculate the intensities of the principal, we can check that whether the intensities of secondary maxima is how much times the intensity of the principal maxima. See, now finally, if we see roughly that this was our graph. So now alpha versus I. So at alpha 0, what we are getting? Central maxima. At, over pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, what we are getting? Minimas. And at 3 pi by 2, 4 pi, 3 pi by 2, 5 pi by 2, 7 pi by 2, what we are getting? Secondary maximas. So these are nothing but the secondary maximas. Okay. So now we can also calculate the intensities of secondary maxima, and we can check whether that intensity of secondary maxima is how much times or how much percentage of the principal maxima. So for that, what we will do is, see, let me choose the pen again. Suppose the intensity of principal principal maxima is equals to I naught. So the intensity of first secondary maxima, okay, first secondary maxima is I1, that is equals to A square, and at what angle it is forming? 3 pi by 2. So we can write sine square alpha over alpha square. So alpha ki which value it is? 3 pi by 2. So we can write sine square 3 pi by 2 upon 3 pi by 2 ka square. When we calculate this, we get that it is 4 upon 9 pi square into a square, or it is a square upon 22. Okay, what is it? It is a square upon 22. So what is a square? In intensity of principal maxima is a square. It means it is I naught. So easily we can conclude from here that I1 is 4.5% of I naught, or the intensity of secondary maxima. I1 is about 1 by 22th intensity of principal maxima. Okay, similarly, we can calculate for other intensity. We can even calculate intensity of secondary maxima. Okay, this is first secondary maxima. When we similarly calculate for second secondary maxima, what we get? What we get is, similarly, we will be keeping the value of a square sine square 5 pi by 2 upon 5 pi by 2 ka square. So we will be getting the answer as 4 upon 25 pi square into a square, or we will be getting the answer as a square by 62, or 1 by 62 times of I naught. So similarly, we can calculate for the other intensities also. So if we can give the conclusion to this as the relative intensities of the principal maxima, first secondary maxima, second secondary maxima are 1:4 by 9 pi square is to 4 by 25 pi square, and so on, like 4 by 49 pi square, etc. So even such questions are asked, that what are the relative intensities, or the relative intensities are given by so and so, prove it. So what you have to do is nothing. You have to consider the principal maxima. You have to calculate for first secondary maxima I naught by 22. Okay. And we have to calculate for second secondary maximas. And similarly, we can show the relative intensities. Fine. Now let us draw the final graph of the equation that we have found out for position of principal maxima, position of minima, and position of secondary maxima for Fraunhofer single slit. So when we finally draw the intensity graph is of this manner. This is alpha, this is I. Okay. First, we will be drawing the central maxima. Central maxima is this. Then secondary maxima, second secondary maxima, third secondary maxima, and so on. First secondary maxima, second secondary maxima, third secondary maxima, and so on. Now you might be thinking that why am I tilting the graph? Because in secondary maxima, we were knowing that the exact intersection points were something else, and we wrote the nearby values like 3 pi by 2, 7 pi by 2, and 5 pi by 2. Therefore, the graph is tilted for the single slit. So this is the final intensity graph of the single slit. So now we have found out the alpha value for central maxima, that is 0. Then we also know that this is pi, 2 pi, the values of minima, because the value of minima is alpha is equals to plus minus n pi. 3 pi, 4 pi, this side it is minus pi, minus 2 pi, minus 3 pi, minus 4 pi. And the value of secondary maximas of alpha is 3 pi by 2, 5 pi by 2, 7 pi by 2, and so on. So this is the intensity graph, and practically also we have seen that in the lab. Okay, students. So in the next lecture, we will be talking about diffraction due to end slit. These are the references. Thank you, students.